As I ran through the deserted streets of the once thriving town, my feet hammering on the crumbling pavement, only the far-off screams of the wind could be heard in the unsettling quiet that surrounded me. These streets used to be busy with activity, with the smell of home-cooked dinners and laughter filling the air. But now, all that was left was an eerie void, a ghost town still troubled by the ghosts of its former existence. As I raced forward, my pulse thumping in my chest, memories of happier times flooded my thoughts. I remember when neighbors greeted each other with friendly smiles and children played tag on the well-kept lawns. I had a reputation back then for being the committed paramedic who hurried to the side of the sick and injured, providing comfort and helping hands to those who were in need. Those days, however, seemed like distant memories now, buried in the aftermath of the catastrophic zombie apocalypse that had come on this once beautiful planet. The continuous darkness of the present entered my thoughts, pushing me to confront the horrifying truth that surrounded me. As I rounded the corner, I noticed a horrifying person staggering towards me. Its rotting flesh was hanging loosely from its bones, and its soulless eyes stared at me. It was a zombie, one of the dreadful outcomes of the plague that had ripped our town apart. Its arms reached out for me, hungry for the taste of my warm flesh. Fear coursed through my veins, but I refused to give in to its paralyzing hold. I quickly pulled out a rusty fire axe that I had found in an abandoned hardware store. Gripping the handle tightly, I swung with all my might, the weapon connecting with a loud thud against the zombie's skull. Shards of bone and decaying brain matter flew into the air, splattering my clothes with the remains of a once human existence. I took a deep breath and moved away from the motionless body while keeping a close watch out for any further dangers in the deserted street. The lingering stink of death mixed with the stale air, an ongoing reminder of the horrors lurking just beyond the outskirts of our fragile town. The town had turned into a hunting field, with the living fighting a desperate war against hordes of zombies. Every day was a fight for survival, an endless struggle against the growing darkness. With renewed resolve, I pushed forward, my footsteps echoing against the hollow silence of the town. The shadows danced around me, whispering secrets of despair and loss. But I refused to listen. I would be the guiding light in the middle of the darkness, the unshakable force who would defy the odds and bring salvation to those who remained. As I rushed around the next corner, my pulse racing, I made a quiet promise to myself. I'd fight. Fight for my town, fight for its people, and fight to restore what remains of our shattered lives. The journey would be dangerous, and the route challenging, but I shall not waver, because I knew deep down that I was our final hope. Chapter 2. Our town had known peace for so long that the arrival of the Ravagers sent shockwaves through its very core. As I watched from the outskirts of the town, I could see a convoy of armored vehicles rolling into town, their engines growling like a pack of hungry beasts. The once familiar streets now carried the weight of an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of marching boots and the clinking of weapons. When the vehicles came to a stop, I felt shivers run down my spine as Colonel Harris, a stern-faced guy with a stone-like glare, stepped out of the lead vehicle. Like a rain cloud, his presence dimmed the town's once vibrant spirit. He ordered his men to spread out and position themselves in different intersections and block off any escape routes. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched the Ravagers take control of the town. They moved with calculated precision, securing vital resources, interrogating frightened townspeople, and setting up checkpoints to keep an eye on the movement of people and supplies. Fear lingered in the air like an invisible fog, suffocating hope and creating despair. With each passing day, the cruelty of the Ravagers' ways became more and more apparent. I watched them take food from families and leave them with barely enough rations to survive. With their direct and harsh language, they barked orders that left little room for discussion. Any opposition was met with immediate and ruthless punishment. The town's once warm and inviting atmosphere had transformed into a prison of fear. As I watched my town change, I clenched my fists, my determination fueled by the increasing injustice unfolding before my eyes. The faces of my friends, family, and neighbors flashed in my mind, their safety now at risk due to the Ravagers' tight control over them. At that point, I made a silent vow. a pledge to protect those whom I cared about and to stand up against this tyranny. As night fell, I returned home, a small sanctuary in a world gone mad. The darkness outside seemed to mirror the growing anger within me, which fueled my determination. It was then that I knew I had to fight, so I studied maps of the town, marked potential hideouts and routes, and plotted strategies to outsmart the Ravagers. I kept asking myself repeatedly, how did we let things come to this? How did we allow our freedom to slip away? That night I could not sleep, my thoughts consumed by the imminent conflict with the Ravagers. I knew the risks and the danger that lay ahead, but the fire within me burned stronger than ever. The next morning, as I stepped out of my home, I saw others who shared my determination and friends who had realized how serious of a situation they were in. Our eyes met, and in that exchange, an unspoken pact formed. We would gather, unite, and fight for our town, our loved ones, and our freedom that had been taken away. The stage was set, and I knew that this battle would be unlike anything I had faced before. The Ravagers had underestimated the resilience of the town's people, the strength that surged within our veins. They were about to witness the relentless spirit of a community pushed to its limits, ready to rise against the darkness that threatened to consume them. With a steady breath, I joined my allies, ready to take a stand against the Ravagers. The battle for our home had only just begun, but the embers of rebellion burned bright within our hearts. We would face the storm, defy the odds, and reclaim our town from the clutches of oppression. In the face of overwhelming odds, we would become a beacon of hope, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. The town had become a battleground, and I was prepared to fight until my last breath. The world may have fallen into chaos, but I refused to let despair be the final note in our symphony. It was time to make a stand, to make our voices rise above the silence and show the Ravagers that we will not surrender our freedom without a fight. Chapter 3. The moon hung low in the night sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate streets of the once vibrant town. My determination unwavering, the weight of my mission pressing upon me. My heart pounded in my chest, matching the rhythm of my hurried footsteps. I had reached a critical juncture in my plan. In the dimly lit basement of an abandoned building, I met with my first recruit, Thomas, a middle-aged mechanic with a steely gaze that mirrored my own determination. The flickering candle on a makeshift table illuminated our faces, casting long shadows that danced in the corners of the room. The air was thick with tension as we exchanged glances, understanding the weight of the task ahead. With an intensity born from desperation, I explained the true nature of the Ravagers' reign, painting a vivid picture of their cruelty and oppression. I spoke of the freedoms we had lost, the lives that had been shattered, and the urgent need to reclaim our town. Thomas listened intently, his hands clenched into fists, a fire burning in his eyes. As the night pressed on, I ventured into the heart of the town, rallying the remaining survivors. I sought out Martha, a wise and resilient woman whose home had become a sanctuary for those seeking solace in this chaotic world. Martha's voice, weathered by years of experience, held a weight that demanded attention. In the dimly lit room, I addressed the group that had gathered, their faces etched with weariness and despair. I spoke of unity, of the strength that lay within their collective will. I implored them to stand up, to fight back against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. A hush fell over the room as my words settled into the hearts of those gathered. The gravity of the situation hung heavy in the air, mingling with the scent of sweat and fear. Yet in the depths of their eyes, a spark of hope flickered, fragile but determined. Slowly, one by one, the survivors stepped forward, pledging their allegiance to the cause. Young and old, men and women, their faces etched with scars, both seen and unseen, united in their shared desire for freedom. Each had their reasons for joining, their own personal battles that fueled their determination. I knew the road ahead would be treacherous. The challenges we would face were vast and daunting, but I saw in the eyes of those standing beside me a resilience that refused to be extinguished. They were no longer merely survivors. They were rebels, a force to be reckoned with. As the night wore on, plans began to take shape. I listened to the ideas and suggestions that were shared, recognizing the value of each voice. I assigned tasks, drawing upon the diverse skills and talents of the group, forging them into a formidable team. The sound of rain tapping against the window panes provided a rhythmic backdrop to our discussions. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within their hearts, but it also offered a glimmer of hope. For in the midst of chaos, nature had a way of cleansing and renewing, and I saw the opportunity to do the same. With a renewed sense of purpose, our growing band of rebels set forth into the night, ready to face the challenges that awaited us. The darkness may have swallowed our town, but we carried within us a flicker of light that refused to be extinguished. Little did we know our actions will echo through the halls of history, our names whispered by future generations as symbols of resilience and bravery. The journey ahead would test our resolve, but together it would forge a path towards a brighter future, where hope would rise from the ashes of despair. Chapter 4. The moonlight seeped through the dense canopy, casting ethereal shadows on the broken pavement as I met with rebel comrades gathered in an abandoned warehouse. Their faces, etched with determination, were illuminated by the flickering glow of a solitary lantern. A sense of urgency hung heavy in the air, as they knew that every moment wasted could cost them dearly. My eyes were glistening with a mix of resolve and weariness. I stood before the group, a makeshift map spread out on a rusted metal table. The map displayed a labyrinth of alleyways, side streets, and hidden tunnels that crisscrossed the town like a web of survival. "We need to strike at the Ravagers when they least expect it," I declared, my voice low but brimming with conviction. "They believe their power is absolute, but we know the shadows of this town better than anyone. It's time to show them that unity and resourcefulness can triumph over tyranny." The rebels leaned forward, their expressions a mosaic of anticipation and anxiety. Each carried the weight of loved ones lost, homes ravaged, and a burning desire for justice. They were ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, bound by a shared determination to reclaim their town from the clutches of oppression. I finger-traced the map, highlighting key locations, strategically positioned warehouses, abandoned buildings, and hidden underground tunnels that would serve as their bases of operation. "Our first target will be the supply convoy they send out every 3 days," I announced, my voice growing stronger. "We'll cut off their lifeline, disrupt their logistics, and sow seeds of doubt within their ranks." Nods of agreement rippled through the group, their collective spirit ignited by my words. I knew that in this war against the Ravagers, we needed more than brute force. We needed cunning, stealth, and the element of surprise. "Jake, I want you and your team to rig the main road with traps. Make it a nightmare for the Ravagers to navigate, buying us time and diverting their attention." Jake's eyes gleamed with a mix of excitement and determination. "Consider it done," he replied, his voice laced with unwavering commitment. "Mary, I need you to gather information. Infiltrate their ranks, find their weaknesses, and relay it back to us. Knowledge is power, and we need every advantage we can get." Mary's lips tightened into a thin line, her determination matching mine. "I won't let you down," she said with a glimmer of steel in her eyes. As the group dispersed, each member assigned their specific tasks. A renewed sense of purpose filled the air. They understood the risks, the dangers lurking in the shadows, but the fire burning within them was unyielding. This town was their home, and they were ready to fight tooth and nail to protect it. In the days that followed, my rebel force became shadows in the night, striking swiftly and silently. They sabotaged supply caches, leaving the Ravagers bewildered and scrambling to salvage what they could. Communication lines were severed, creating chaos and sowing seeds of mistrust among the Ravagers' ranks. My paramedic skills proved invaluable, tending to wounded rebels and providing vital medical expertise. I stitched wounds with steady hands and dispensed limited resources with the wisdom of a battlefield medic, knowing that every life saved was a victory against the encroaching darkness. The town buzzed with whispers of hope, of resistance, as word spread of the Ravagers' growing vulnerability. Ordinary people, driven by the rebels' actions, began to question the once unchallenged authority. The town's spirit flickered, catching the wind of change and breathing life into a community that had nearly succumbed to despair. But I knew the journey ahead was treacherous, that our successes was just a prelude to the ultimate confrontation. The Ravagers, wounded and humiliated, would fight back with fury, seeking to reclaim their hold on the town. As I stared out into the moonlit night, I couldn't help but wonder if their daring exploits would be enough to tip the scales in our favor. The town's fate hung in the balance, and the next chapter of our struggle would test not only our resolve, but also the resilience of our humanity in the face of unrelenting darkness. Chapter 5. The night was thick with tension as the rebels, and I huddled together in our secret hideout. I can see their faces were etched with weariness, but their spirits remained unyielding. We had faced countless trials together, each hardship forging us into a formidable force against the Ravagers. However, a shadow had fallen upon our sanctuary, a shadow cast by a traitor in our midst. My heart weighed heavy with betrayal as I looked around the dimly lit room. Every face I once trusted now seemed cloaked in suspicion. Doubt gnawed at me, threatening to unravel our hard-fought unity. We had shared our dreams, our fears, and our hopes for a better future, yet amidst our ranks, a serpent had slithered, poisoning our bond. It was Emma, a young woman with a quick smile and agile hands who had turned against us. I had suspected nothing, for Emma had been a fierce fighter and had always stood by my side during the darkest hours. But deceit, like a hidden wound, festered unseen until it unleashed its venomous sting. The moment of revelation had been a thunderclap in the midst of a raging storm. Emma's treachery had paved the way for the Ravagers to find our hideout, a well-kept secret until now. The sound of boots stomping against the worn floorboards shattered the silence, mingling with the rebels' gasps of disbelief. In the chaos that ensued, I fought to rally my shattered comrades, desperate to salvage the remnants of our resistance. The clash of steel against steel rang through the air, drowning out the cries of anguish. The rebels fought with a fervor born from the sting of betrayal, their determination fueling their every strike. But the cost was high. Lives were lost, sacrifices made, and wounds inflicted that went far beyond the physical. Each fallen comrade became a testament to the price they were willing to pay for freedom. Their memory ignited a flame of unwavering resolve within those who remained, an unspoken vow to honor their sacrifice. My heart bled for those we had lost, for the shattered dreams and the fractured trust. Yet, through the grief, I found strength. The strength to rise, to fight, and to lead. The fire of resilience burned brighter within me, illuminating a path forward, even amidst the darkest of nights. With heavy hearts and weary bodies, the rebels regrouped, our determination unyielding. We mourned our fallen friends, our sorrow mingling with the unwavering spirit that had bound us together from the start. Each loss became a rallying cry, fueling our determination to rid our town of the oppressive grasp of the Ravagers. My voice steady yet heavy with grief, I addressed my comrades. I reminded them of their purpose, our shared cause, and the sacrifices we had already made. I spoke of the flickering ember of hope that still burned within them, urging them to stoke it into an inferno that would consume their oppressors. We will not falter, we will not waver. For the fallen, we will carry on. And so, with resolute hearts, we took our first steps toward a final confrontation. The flames of determination danced in the eyes of the rebels, casting a glow that matched the fiery sunrise on the horizon. We will reclaim our town, for our fallen comrades and for a future where freedom would reign. In the face of betrayal and sacrifice, we will rise. Chapter 6. The air crackled with tension as my dwindling group of rebels prepared for the ultimate showdown with the Ravagers. Darkness cloaked the town, the moon a mere sliver in the sky, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance with malevolence. The cold breeze whispered through the streets, carrying with it the weight of anticipation and the scent of impending danger. Within the makeshift headquarters, I stood at a worn-out wooden table, meticulously studying the blueprints of the town. Every alley, every abandoned building held significance in our desperate struggle for freedom. The flickering candlelight reflected in my eyes, determination etched upon my face as I planned our daring assault. My comrades, a weary but resolute group, gathered around me. Jack, the former mechanic with a fiery spirit, checked his weapons with a grim determination. Rachel, the quick-witted and agile survivor, sharpened her knives with a focused intensity. And David, the quiet but steadfast elder of the group, organized our remaining supplies, ensuring we were battle-ready. I addressed the rebels. My voice, steady and resolute, pierced the heavy silence. We've come too far to back down now. This is our chance to reclaim our town, to break the chains of tyranny that bind us. We fight for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for all those who couldn't stand with us today. My words resonated, rekindling the flickering flames of hope within the hearts of my weary companions. The rebel group exchanged glances, their eyes filled with determination, their spirits intertwined in a shared purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and deep purple, we embarked on our perilous mission. We moved with a calculated precision, blending into the shadows as we navigated the desolate streets. Our footsteps were silent, our breaths steady, our hearts pounding in synchrony with the pulsating rhythm of the night. The first clash erupted when we ambushed a group of patrolling Ravagers near the town square. Gunfire shattered the silence, echoing through the empty streets as we unleashed our pent-up frustration and defiance. The sound of bullets whizzing by, accompanied by the agonizing moans of the undead, created a symphony of chaos that seemed to consume the night. My paramedic training became invaluable in the midst of the onslaught. I swiftly moved from one injured rebel to another, tending to their wounds with a determined grace. My hands, stained with the blood of my fallen comrades, I worked with a sense of urgency, driven by a fierce desire to save as many lives as I could. The battle raged on. We pushed forward with unyielding determination. Explosions rocked the air, billowing smoke and debris, momentarily obscuring our vision. My heart pounded in my chest as I navigated the treacherous landscape, my senses heightened, anticipating every move, every hidden danger. Amidst the chaos, my eyes locked with Colonel Harris, his malevolent gaze filled with fury and a perverse delight in the suffering he had inflicted upon the town. A surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins as I advanced toward him, my determination burning like a flame that could not be extinguished. Our confrontation was fierce and relentless, a clash of wills that mirrored the struggle between hope and tyranny. My fists struck with precision, fueled by the collective strength of my fallen comrades. Colonel Harris, a formidable opponent, fought back with a ruthless ferocity, determined to crush the rebellion. In a final act of desperation, I unleashed a primal roar, channeling every ounce of my strength and defiance. My blows landed with an unyielding force, driving Colonel Harris to his knees. A momentary silence enveloped the battlefield as our eyes locked, a battle of wills raging in that singular connection. With one final blow, I toppled the tyrant, his body crashing to the ground. The weight of his oppressive rule lifted from the town, replaced by a collective exhale of relief and triumph. The rebels, battered and bloodied, emerged from the darkness, their faces marked with the scars of a hard-fought victory. As the sun began to rise, casting a golden glow upon the ravaged town, I stood at the epicenter of our triumph. My eyes surveyed the battlefield, a testament to our resilience, our unwavering spirit. The journey had been arduous, filled with loss and sacrifice, but our determination had carried us through. In the midst of the fallen and the ruins, hope bloomed like a fragile flower, its petals reaching towards the dawning light. We began to regroup, gathering the wounded, mourning the fallen, and tending to the needs of our shattered community. We stood together, survivors in a world overrun by darkness, ready to rebuild, to reclaim our lives, and to forge a future where freedom and resilience prevailed. Chapter 7. The night sky above the small town was ablaze with flickering flames, illuminating the faces of weary survivors who had emerged victorious from the final battle against the Ravagers. The air still carried the acrid scent of gunpowder and smoke, remnants of the fierce struggle that had raged throughout the town. I stood amidst the rubble and ruins, my heart heavy with a mix of triumph and sorrow. As the dust settled, I surveyed the aftermath of the conflict. Buildings lay in ruins, their walls scarred by bullet holes and charred by fire. The streets were littered with debris, a somber reminder of the violence that had unfolded. Yet there was an unmistakable energy in the air, an ember of hope that burned within the survivors. The remaining rebels gathered around me, their faces etched with fatigue but also determination. They had fought valiantly, their resilience tested time and time again. Some bore wounds, bandaged hastily amidst the chaos, a testament to their sacrifices. The fallen, their names whispered reverently, were laid to rest in a makeshift memorial, a silent tribute to their bravery and the price they had paid. With the oppressive regime of Colonel Harris shattered, the town was finally free. The weight of tyranny lifted. A collective sigh of relief swept through the survivors. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, they allowed themselves to hope, to dream of a future where they could rebuild their lives, their community. I stepped forward, my voice carrying a blend of exhaustion and determination. We have endured unimaginable hardships. We have faced death and loss, but through it all, we have held on to our spirit, our humanity. Today, we stand together, survivors who refuse to be broken. The survivors listened, their eyes filled with a flicker of newfound purpose. They had seen my unwavering courage, witnessed my selflessness in the midst of chaos. To them, I embodied the strength and resilience they all aspired to. "We will rebuild," I declared, my voice steady despite the weariness that settled deep within my bones. "We will mend these shattered streets and rebuild our homes, but let us not forget the sacrifices made by those who fell. Their memories will forever guide us, reminding us of the price we paid for our freedom." The survivors nodded, their determination mirrored in their eyes. The town had known unity before the darkness descended, and now they would rediscover it, stronger than ever. Together, they would clear away the debris, piece by piece, rebuilding their homes and fortifying their defenses against the ever-present threat of the undead. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The survivors toiled tirelessly, restoring the town to its former glory. With each building that rose from the ashes, their hope grew, intertwining with the resilience that had carried them through the darkest of times. I became a beacon of inspiration, guiding the survivors through the challenges of reconstruction. My empathy and unwavering spirit infused every step they took, forging bonds of trust and camaraderie. They planted crops in the fertile soil, set up defenses to protect their newfound haven, and gradually transformed the town into a sanctuary of hope. The scars of the past will always remain, etched into the landscape and the hearts of those who had endured. But they were no longer defined by the horrors they had faced. Instead, they embraced the lessons learned, the strength found in unity, and the indomitable will to live. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting its warm glow upon the rejuvenated town, I stood at the edge of the sanctuary. The once devastated streets now thrived with life, the sounds of laughter and conversation replacing the haunting silence of the past. In that moment, I knew that we have achieved something remarkable. The zombie apocalypse had forever altered our lives, leaving scars that would never fade. But amidst the remnants of destruction, we had forged a new beginning, a testament to the unyielding spirit of humanity. And as the night sky shimmered with stars, I breathed in the hope-filled air, ready to embrace the future we had fought so hard to create. The tale of our last stand will be whispered through generations, a reminder that even in the face of the most harrowing darkness, the human spirit will always find a way to prevail.